We're going to take a tour of the gravel pits in the Paris area in Brant County using Google Maps and some photos from the ground. I'm going to zoom in here to the Paris area, and I'll show you with an overlay all the gravel pits from the 403 to the 401, including Paris, Cambridge, and the Kitchener-Waterloo area. As you can see, there's a lot of gravel pits. As we zoom into Paris here, take a look at the total area that the town takes up, and compare that with the areas of the gravel pits. We'll zoom into this area over here, and this is the gravel pit that Dufferin wants to open on top of our wellhead protection areas. Our drinking water is here and here. Now this area of gravel pits stretches the entire length of the town of Paris, starting from behind the fairgrounds, all the way up behind the cemetery up to King Edward Street in the Lafarge pit. This area was extensively mined in the 70s and was abandoned long ago. This area is in behind Paris Kitchens. Now from the ground you can see they just scraped all the aggregate they could out of this pit and left it. It's just stony, rocky, barren ground with only the toughest plants that can survive. You can see they left tunnels and buildings. A lot of the buildings that they abandoned actually have been taken down since then. So there's not as many as what there used to be 20, 30 years ago. And you see what looks like a stream going through the pit, but it looks more like, when you get close up to it, you can tell it's more stagnant water. What looks like a wetland area is really just a gravel pit floor with a foot or two of water with whatever junk was around at the time, like these skids in the middle. If we go back to Google Maps, we can see this area of the Lafarge pit that has not been extracted yet, with the nith running through it, has actually been slated for extraction now. This is the new industrial park, and gravel pit has been licensed across the road here. The Osloka pit's going up in this area. This is the Gurney pit over by the new arena. This is old satellite imagery. I've heard that this pit's now depleted and ready to close. Just across the Grand River here is the Oak Park complex. Now this whole area has been extensively mined. There's a walking trail that runs through this old mined out pit. As you can see, just like the other gravel pit, all the gravel was stripped out of this pit and left how they finished. Even the big piles of topsoil are just left behind. With so many stones and gravel on the floor of the pit and no topsoil, it's hard for anything to really grow. From a distance, it looks green and vegetated. There's not very many trees. And I found a creek on the site that ran through the top part of the pit, crossed under the path through a culvert. There was a fast-running creek that essentially got to the bottom and drained to the pit floor. Then I found a sign on the trail. And this sign spelled out the extraction and rehabilitation sequence. As you can see from all the pictures, they only went to number 4, extract aggregates. And then on the sign it says, up to the middle of the 20th century, gravel pits were usually abandoned after the aggregate was removed. Now, as it shows in this sign, this is supposed to be a progressive rehabilitation. So as they move from one area, they take the topsoil and they move it to an area that's already been extracted, and they start planting and returning it to agriculture. This obviously did not happen in this gravel pit. So I took a drive around to see if I could find out whose gravel pit this was. And what a surprise, it's a Dufferin pit with an open license. The whole Oak Park area has had all the gravel extracted from it. And all of it was basically left abandoned, just like all the other pits that we've looked at so far. Even down in this area here, they extracted the aggregate and left these piles behind. Now, Green Lane gets interesting. This whole area over here has been extracted. On the left side of Green Lane there, it was just abandoned. The gravel pit floor looks the same as all the other pits again. More trees on this site than any of the other ones. Over on the other side of the road was the old Lafarge pit. That's where the county of Brant built the Green Lane Sports Complex with baseball diamonds, soccer fields. I had to do a request for information under the Freedom of Information Act, and I got the following data from the County of Brant. In 1996, we paid $200,000 for the property, $3,400 an acre. So the county of Brant, the taxpayers of Brant County, paid $1.5 million to build this sports complex in the dog park. When I heard the Green Lane Sports Complex called the award-winning Lafarge Fields by an aggregate executive, I had to have a look into it. The Ontario Aggregate Resources Corporation is the trustee for the funds that are put in to rehabilitate the gravel pits. And they have their publication, Outstanding Rehabilitation and Reclamation Sites. And photo number 14 is a corn crop being harvested off of a rehabilitated pit floor. And then it goes on to say that they won a bronze plaque award from the Ontario Stone, Sand and Gravel Association for the whole Green Lane property, including the agricultural rehabilitation and reforested areas, lakes used by migratory waterfowl, and the Green Lane Park. One of the concerns about the Dufferin Pit is that it's going to be left abandoned just like all the other pits in town. Dufferin has made many assurances that they will carry out progressive rehabilitation as the project progresses. Since the other Dufferin Pit in the area doesn't appear to have any rehabilitation, that would be a good idea to have a look around at some of the other Dufferin pits in the area just to see how they're making out. So we just zoom out of Paris here, and we'll go south to Simcoe. As you can see here, most of this has been below the water table extraction. None of this land is ever going to be rehabilitated. Dropping into Google Street View, we can see an abandoned building at the side of the road. There, I was driving by, so I updated the picture for you. Although all the aggregates have been extracted from this pit, it remains open as an asphalt plant. And it happens to be right on a wellhead protection area for Simcoe water. All right, so we'll zoom out and we'll go up the 401 to Aberfoyle. Now look at all the gravel pits in this area, all of it below the water table. None of it looking rehabilitated. There's Nestle Waters nestled right in beside there. Look at all the ponds on this one. We drop into Google Street View again, we can see the Dufferin Pit. Now we'll take a look at the Dufferin Blair Pit, which is located on Whistlebear Road. Again, this is old satellite footage. And this section of the extraction here now looks like this. These are just pictures of the area below the water table extractions. And that's the Dufferin Blair Pit up in Cambridge. Well, that's it for the tour of the pits of Paris. I'm just going to leave you now with one question. Given that we have not seen any attempts to rehabilitate any of their properties, do you really believe that rehabilitation will be carried out? For more information, hit my website at typex.ca.